Hey, Granny Gear here for Old Guy on a Bike. On this Tech Tuesday, we're talking multi-tool. You know, those little tools that pack a pretty big punch in a small space, carrying hopefully the tools with you on your bike that you need to make an adjustment or to repair something and get you back on the road. Today, we're going to be looking at a whole bunch of multi-tools that I've collected through the years. Some I've used, some I've never used, and one you may have never seen before that I think is truly unique. All right, here we go on this Tech Tuesday. It is a multi-tool extravaganza. Quite a line of multi-tools I have here, isn't it? And you know what? That's not all of them I have. There's some on some bikes that I just didn't feel like getting out of the bags, and some of these came out of storage, and some I've used and some I've never used. But I'm going to go through all of them just for fun really quickly and maybe point out some things that I think are good and bad in a multi-tool if you're going to be looking for things, shopping for one, etc. Let's start from small to wild. And man, some of these things are wild. Here we go. Now this is a little toe peak. This is that little Nano 9. I think their Nano line is fairly new because I didn't see it on the website. And even though I wasn't so crazy about the way they did the 8mm in my last video, I didn't feel that was really up to the task of loosening an 8mm or tightening an 8mm bolt the way you would want to if you were having problems with something that big. But I think the rest of the tool is really quite nice. It's very small, it's very tidy, it's very light, and they think they come in 3 or 4 flavors. So there's a smaller one and a bigger one. I don't think it's a bad tool. Just had the question about that 8mm, so maybe the answer is to simply carry a cut down 8mm Allen wrench in your toolkit along with something like maybe a Nano 7 or something like that, or maybe the Nano 9. Anyway, it's a little one, it's tidy. Here's another Mini-Me. This one, I've had this in the box. I don't know if I've ever carried it. It's made by Specialized, or at least it was. It's a EMT something. I don't. They probably don't even make this anymore. It's a tidy little thing, isn't it? You notice as you get into the older multi-tools, they all have a Phillips head screw because Phillips head screws used to be on the derailleurs, and it's where you would set your limit screws, right, on your derailleur, maybe even your B-tension screw. That used to be a Phillips screw. Well, pretty much not anymore. Some derailleurs don't even have limit screws these days. So that's kind of an artifact of old times. So I don't think I'll be using this anytime soon, but it is small and quite well made. So here's this park tool that I used the other day to show you how I could loosen an 8mm fixing nut on my derailleur hanger. And this is pretty nice. This is says it's a park tool IB or 1B1, but this thing is beefy. It is really well made, and there's enough of a leverage to it to loosen something pretty well. But it also has a flat-bladed screwdriver on it, which I don't even know what I would do with that on my bike. I'm still carrying it because it does the 8mm well, and it carries every other size that I have on my gravel bike. So that's still goody. Now we're getting into something a little fancier. This is a Specialized tool I've had forever and ever. Pretty, isn't it? Nice and shiny and chromy. This one has like I guess it's a disc brake pad spreader. Probably, I assume that's for spoke nipples, for chewing. I guess that's for having a beer later on. I don't know. And now you're starting to get into some really nice small wrenches. That's a what, 2.5 maybe? And yeah, not bad. Chain breaker, I doubt would actually do very much for you. And it does have a very stubby 8. Now here's the thing when you get into wrenches this small. If they're that short, they may not get into where they need to actually get the job done. And that is a problem with any multi-tool that folds together and meets in the middle, kind of like this one does, because you end up with very short, stubby little Allen bits, right, like that. And that simply may not get, like if it's a seat rail or a seat adjusting bolt or something, I may not be able to get in there with that. So I'm not a real fan of this. There's another Lesign, kind of like the one I just showed you from Specialized, almost the same thing. At least now we're starting to see Torx bits. So this is getting to be a little bit newer tool because Torx bits came along over time. A lot of bikes on have Torx bits now, so look for that. If you've got an old multi-tool, it may not have a Torx bit on it. This Blackburn, this is really quite a very nice multi-tool. I don't know if I've carried it very much. One thing I like about it, I like the angled bits. because that lets you get into a place where you may not be able to get a straight bit into to make a small adjustment. A lot of the screws that are this small kind of in an odd place. Also, you notice that's a nice long Allen. So there's a lot of leverage with that, and it'll reach in there, pad spreader, some Torx bits, and an 8mm. This is actually, really feels good to the hand. It's actually really quite a nice little multi-tool. It's a beast though. You could throw this at somebody, yeah, knock them down. Here's a fancy design. Pretty, isn't it? It's a blue one. It's got all kinds of stuff on this thing. I don't even know what some of these do. I don't know what the serrated circular one's supposed to do. Really have no idea. I'd have to think about that. It's nice, but again, kind of short, stubby bits. Not a fan. Now here's one. This is really interesting. This is another Blackburn. I think this has got the shortest, stubbiest. It wins the short, stubby bit award, right? Yeah, you're not going to see me carrying this. This actually, though, has some neat stuff. It's got a little Presta-Core remover. That's actually not a bad thing to have. But here's something. Here's something for you guys. If you can tell me what that is, you need to tell me what that is in the comments. And the first one to do so, well, you win the satisfaction of being the first one to do so. I'll do that if that gives you a hint. All right? Let me know in the comments. All right, this is an absolute beast of a tool. This is an Alien X tool. I don't know if they still make this. This is a Topeak product. I actually never use this. In fact, I found it when I was going through my box of parts and tools looking for multi-tools. So I'm not even going to try and open this all this up so you can see this, but I am going to read out what is in. This actually breaks into two pieces and has a quick link tool, so you can break your quick link in half. It's really, it's the multi-tool for the apocalypse. So real quick, just for fun, this is what this has in it. It's got a chain hook, an 8mm, a chain tool, a chain pin breaker, 2.5, 3mm, 10mm Presta valve tool, 6mm, a knife saw, 2mm Shimano 4.4 Mavic M7 14 gauge, 15 gauge. I guess those are spoke nipple sizes. Master link tool A and B, so you can squish your quick link together. 2mm Allen, a place to store quick link, master links. Disc spacer tool. Tire lever, 4mm, 5mm, T25, T20, T15, T10, 1.5mm. Spoke holder. And a replace pin compartment. I'm not sure what that is. Maybe that's for your chain breaker if you break the pin. Phillips 2.0 socket and a T30 socket bit, all stored in this tool. Ha! That's amazing. All right, well, I've never used it, so I guess it didn't impress me. So here's the next thing. This is a kind of a conglomeration of stuff. This is what I carry in my little hydration pack. If I'm just going to run out on the mountain bike, and I didn't usually carry a tool bag on it with a dropper post and all that. It's rubber banded together, but it makes a point, I think. So check this out. A couple tire levers, suitable for mountain bike use. This is another one of those Blackburn, really, really well-made Blackburn ones. Like I said, this isn't a current model, I don't know if they still make this or not. But here's what I love about this multi-tool. See the Allen wrenches in this? Check this out. Isn't that lovely? Now I've got not only a ball end Allen, which is pretty amazing, but I've got a full-length Allen key that detaches itself from the multi-tool. Stores right back in, clips in, gets all the way down to a 2.5 and a 2. Go all the way down to a 2 that removes. Super, super nice tool. It's got an 8mm in it, chain breaker, Torx bits. It's a heavy thing. I wouldn't want to put this on my gravel bike or something, but for a mountain bike and maybe bike packing, this is a very, very nice multi-tool. And what I had strapped to it is this. It's something to consider. This is like one of those little, this is a Gerber. This a Gerber? Yeah, little Gerber multi-tool pliers. And it's got some extra little bits in it. I think it's got like maybe a little knife bit or something in it. But the reason I carry that is simply for the pliers. What can you do with these? Well, how about loosening a Presta core you can't get out? How about the Presta valve nut? If that thing is seized up and you can't get it off because it's got dried sealant in it or something like that, well, this will do it for you. You could also take it to use it to maybe even bend a spoke if you needed to. You break a spoke, twist it around, bend it. You could cut a zip tie with this. You can use it like a little tweezers to maybe get something out of your tire. super, super handy little thing. Little multi-tool pliers like that is better than anything you're going to find built into a multi-tool. Anyway, that's what I was carrying when I was doing the mountain bikey stuff. Does this look like a multi-tool to you? Well, it is. According to the manufacturer, Daysaver says this is an 8-function multi-tool. Let me read this is in fact called the, what is this thing called? It is called the Essential 8. Well, that kind of makes sense, doesn't it? So let me read what it has in it. It has a hex 8, hex 6, hex 5, hex 4, hex 3, hex 2.5, hex 2, and a Torx 25. So basically 8, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2.5, and 2 Allen wrenches and a T25 all in this little Allen. How do they do that? Thing weighs 33 grams. This is a hollow wrench, so this weighs hardly anything. Well, they do it with some very, very smartly designed little bits that are stored kind of in the ends here, and you can swap them around and you can get all those different tools. Let me show you. So here's what they do. So it's really quite smart. Now you can see in the video here, I pulled the bits out so you can see them, but basically they're all nesting inside the Allen. For instance, this is actually 2 bits in one. I can pull this out on the end. Now I got this little tiny bit where if it's a Torx on one side, and if I nest it back in, now it's an Allen. If I pull it out, now it's a bigger Allen. And if I pull that out, well, now it's an even bigger Allen to the 8mm. And that all nests back in, and they're all magnetized so they don't fall out. On this end, you can see that's, I don't know, that 2, maybe that's probably 2.5. If I turn this little bit around, I'm going to guess that's a 2 now on there. And I take it out. There's another Allen. I can take this out. I can put it in here. And that looks like that's probably a 3, right? Pretty bright. And I just turn it all back around. I'm going to stuff it in there. And stuff that in there. And that's it. And like I said, they're magnetized, so they're not really falling out of there. So it's really quite bright, isn't it, to have all of that in this little Multitool. Now, I've never actually used this to make any repairs, but I was so enamored with the concept. I thought it was so well thought out that I bought one. This thing's expensive. Now, it came from Switzerland, if I remember right, Switzerland or Germany. It's a Swiss company. It's like a $50 tool, and I don't know what it costs to get it shipped. Maybe they got a U.S. distributor now. I think mine came actually from overseas. But anyway, the Essential 8 from Daysaver. I think it has merit. I use it, I put it on my road bike because I think the road bike is the kind of place where I'm not looking for the burliest survival multi-tool, right? I just want to have something that's going to tighten something up to get me out of trouble. And, you know, if I have to make a phone call because that didn't work, well, I can probably do that. So I'm not sure if I would like take this bike packing. For one thing, if you lose this little tiny bit, right? Yes, it's stuck in there, but if you just dropped it in the dirt out in the middle of nowhere, well, you're screwed because this is not a hardware store part. You can get the bits from them, but it's probably coming from Switzerland or maybe some warehouse in the US somewhere. But either way, you're not going to go down to your bike shop probably and get a little bit for this. So in that sense, I think it's good for certain things. I mean, 33 grams, this thing weighs nothing. You know, when you start looking at, you know, what this weighs, or maybe even what this weighs, it's a fraction of the weight of these two parts. So pretty attractive little thing. So check out the Daysaver. I'll put a link up. It's here on my laptop. Too far away for me to read my old eyes. Anyway, that's it. A little bit of multi-tool madness with maybe a little bit of a cutting edge, out of the box thinking multi-tool right here. Anyway, I hope you guys have found a multi-tool that makes you happy. But as always, check the tools that you have in your kit. Make sure you have all the wrenches and the parts that you need to fit the parts of your bike. Make sure they actually all work. Check them out. Go around your bike and take your multi-tool and see if it'll actually get to the places you need to get to. Because you've got those little stubby wrenches. You may find that you can't get to the bolt that you need to tighten. In that case, I don't know. Here's another option. Here's another option that was pointed out to me. I'm rambling on a bit, but was pointed out to me in the comments. I think it was very good because I tried to do the same thing. Somebody commented on my last video, and I'll link that at the description. What about if you just get each individual Allen wrenches? You go to a hardware store or whatever, a bike shop, and you get the individual Allen wrenches that match everything on your bike. They're not connected together. They're just loose in your hand or whatever. And it's funny because I thought the same thing, and I went and did that. I assembled an Allen wrench that fit everything on my bike. And what I found was a couple things. That 8mm, that's a big heavy wrench all by itself. What you could do, of course, is chop some of the length off it, take some of the weight off it. But at 8 and a 6 and a 5 in full length, it starts to get quite a bit of steel, right? So it wasn't, in the end, all of those wrenches were not lighter than a multi-tool. And here's the other thing. When you get down to like a 2.5 or something, that's a really tiny little Allen wrench. They're not very long and they're super skinny. I couldn't figure out a particularly good way to store it in my pack without just losing it. I wouldn't even know that thing took off. I need some kind of a little container. I didn't really know what that was going to be. A rubber band really wasn't going to do the job. So I don't know. In the end, I didn't end up doing that. Stuck with a multi-tool, because one thing about the multi-tool, pretty much for the most part, except for something like this, if it's this type of multi-tool or this type of multi-tool, you got to lose the whole thing or you're going to lose none of it. And so there is that. All right, you guys, that's another Tech Tuesday. That was a lot of fun, I hope. And I'm going to take these multi-tools, put them back in the packs before I forget on each bike, and then they'll probably just go back in the storage box where they will remain unloved and unused. All right, you guys have a great week or weekend. Go ride your bikes.